What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and as promised, Epic Legacy Tome of Titans Volume 2 has launched on Kickstarter today. It has already met its funding goal. It's doubled it, in fact, and it's continuing to work its way towards stretch goal territory, which it should be doing relatively shortly. So, first of all, a huge shout out to 2C Gaming and the team over there for sponsoring this video, also for sending me a care package that included things like the deluxe version and standard version of Epic Legacy Tome of Titans Volume 1. Which I have these here because I want to show you what you can expect kind of if you go to back the Kickstarter. Additionally, there are links to all of the social media for 2C Gaming in the description, as well as the link that takes you to the 2C Gaming website is an affiliate link, so if you pick up anything from their store, I'll benefit slightly monetarily from that. And also at the top of the video description and as a pinned comment to this video, you will have a link, a referral link to the Kickstarter. And all that means is if you go to the Kickstarter via my link and then choose to back the Kickstarter, they'll have, you know, the metrics to see how many people Nerd Immersion was able to drive to their Kickstarter, which is good because it helps me know what kind of things we can do and work together, and then it allows me to do that for future sponsor endeavors and things like that. So, just real quick, Epic Legacy, if you didn't get it from the name, is about epic level characters, and what that means is characters post level 20, right, at 21 to 30. And that's what these monsters and things you'll find in the Tome of Titans are campaign level bosses, like, and, you know, could define an entire campaign around them, but definitely like a final capstone boss for whatever you're going to fight in your epic level campaign. But what's important to note is they are compatible with both standard 5th edition, using just what you find in the standard 5e books, as well as a mythic version designed for use with 2C Gaming's Epic Legacy series. So for that, you would need something like the Epic Legacy Core Rulebook and the Epic Legacy Campaign Codex. Both of these will help you further understand what goes into designing your own epic level campaign. So let's jump over to the Kickstarter right now. As I said, you can see 31 days left to go and approaching its first stretch goal of 25K. It's basically an expansion of Tome of Titans 1. It goes on to say here basically what I just told you, that it does work with standard 5e as well as Epic Legacy if you want to go beyond level 20. A bunch of awesome art, and tactics is something I did want to touch on. I've had this conversation with the folks at 2C Gaming in person at conventions and things over the years, but one of the things that I personally think is sorely lacking from standard 5e is monster tactics. When we look and open up a stat block for any given monster from the monster manual, even the newer stuff from Monsters of the Multiverse, you get a very small blurb about some lore and then just a stat block. And that's, you know, it's serviceable, but I don't know how this monster operates, right? Does it primarily use its claw attack, or does it primarily use this sort of long-range magic attack? I realize that they don't give you that kind of stuff so that you can obviously make the choice on the fly, but in older editions, and also something that we have in the Tome of Titans here, is monster tactics. It will tell you if it gets below half hit points or it's fearing for its life, it's going to preserve itself over trying to fight to the death. Or it will use this ability at a certain point. It'll open the fight with this. If it recognizes that an enemy is a healer, it'll use this on them, stuff like that. We used to have that in older editions, and it also, in my opinion, actually made it easier for me to run a campaign or run a combat. Especially if I was pulling a monster randomly, I could look at that and say, oh, okay, this is how I run it, not have to just make it up on the fly, because I'm sure you've seen this too. The way I run one monster versus the way you run the same monster, some people might think that a certain type of monster is just a complete pushover and it's pointless because of how they or their DM ran it. Or, you know, the opposite could be true for me. My players are terrified of these things because I ran it a certain way, and it became just a disaster for them. Tucker's Kobold's a great example. Anyway, tactics is my point here, is that is something that you get with Epic Legacy Tome of Titans. Tools for how to run a high skill level combat. And that's important, especially if we are talking level 20 plus. It needs to be challenging, right? Your players have done what the core game has had you do all the way up to level 20, and now you're continuing to fight and go beyond. And that sounds awesome, but if it's just a cakewalk and you just trample everything you encounter, it's actually not fun. And I can speak to this from personal experience. If you are able to get everything you want in a campaign and get it easily with no challenge, it sounds fun in theory, but it's actually super boring. I think I made a video on it. If not, I'll make one in the future. But anyway, each Titan has all sorts of. It says whether your players are seasoned power gamers or greener than a first level adventurer, these Titans are always engaging worthy foes. Seamlessly blend each Titan into your campaign through a series of creative encounter hooks, establishing an unforgettable villain or an epic ally. Keep going on. And I should say they are the Tome of Titans. Titan doesn't necessarily equate to them being evil. They are just epic level creatures, and we'll talk about that shortly. There is also 4 promos available here. You can see them: Master Sin, the Burning Claw, sort of a Rakshasa type. Nolthum, Doom from Beyond Stars, basically an evil moon. That's the one we're going to talk about. Anazel Shan, the creator, and Elthias, the Draco Fiend. You can just click these links. It'll take you to the 2C Gaming website, and there you can basically purchase them for $0 and then download the PDF of the individual thing. We can also see, however, how many monsters we have in the book and get a peek at some of the other ones. And you'll also notice when you go through these, some of these you can recognize who they are, but due to certain things, names need to be changed. For example, the Mad Mage. I think we all know who that is, but we can't call them by name because that's a property owned by somebody else. Same thing with the Ring of Power, which is mentioned here as one above all. I think we all know what that is, but what's more than interesting, I think, in that particular instance, is that is a Titan, but it's just a ring. But you obviously know that an entire campaign and multiple series can be based on one simple thing. So there you go. Scrolling on to the second page, we can see Dendar the Night Serpent. We could also see on the first page the Platinum Dragon King, right? We had our sort of evil dragon queen in the last book. We have our Platinum Dragon King in this one. Again, typically a super wholly good character, but, you know, your campaign is your campaign. And there are 3 still left to be determined. So here we can see our reward tiers. First of all, I should also say that this is looking, at least the standard edition stuff, the PDF will be delivered in November of 2022, whereas your hardcover prints will be delivered in May of 2023, and if you go for the collector's box, that'll be in June. But let's talk about what you get. So for $25, you get the PDF, and you'll get that this year, which is pretty great. Sorry, I'm bumping the table. $55, you'll get the print version of the hardcover book and the PDF. For $99, you'll get the deluxe version. Again, as we saw here, it has sort of the foil treatment as opposed to the standard version. It also has special end sheets, and you get to choose the cover art. Do you want to have Dendar the Night Serpent or Medusa on the front cover? And for $380, you get the Epic Legacy Collector box set, which will include the deluxe edition, the gemstone dice, the Mythic Foes dice bag, a DM screen, stat cards, and all contained within a collector's box, and the option to buy the deluxe version of the Hero's Handbook, Campaign Codex, and Tome of Titans Volume 1, all at $60 each. And we can see a little bit of it here. They're also, all available virtual tabletop of choice. Here's the screen. This guy reminds me of getting Full Metal Alchemist vibes from this dude right here. And then we move into stretch goal territory, right? So for $25K, which is the one we're closest to unlocking right now, that will add 3 more monsters to the Titan magazine. If you're unfamiliar with that, this is a quarterly magazine that adds 3 additional Titans, and in some instances, one that's voted on by the community. So if they make $25K, they'll get 3 more Titans in Q3 of this year. $50K is another 3 more for Q4. $75K says the Epic Legacy Eldritch Epic Chapter 1. It says this goal unlocks the first chapter of the Eldritch Epic, a series of adventures designed for epic characters starting at level 21. The adventure will be divided up into 5 chapters, each building upon the last to weave a heroic tale fit for epic heroes. This adventure pulls out all the stops, utilizing a vast array of both 5e and Epic Legacy elements for an experience like no other. Players will venture to strange new worlds, face devious foes, and prove themselves against mythic challenges. Our story starts with a bang at the gateway to a strange and powerful plane is discovered, and the forces of its ruler, the Emperor of Midnight, are unleashed. Chapter 1 takes epic parties through levels 21 and level 22 and will be available as an add-on in a 60-page softcover print and digital PDF. Then we get to Chapter 2, which will take you at 100K from 23 to 24. Epic Prestige Class Reference Guide at 125K, a digital-only free release for backers and Patreon supporters. The Epic Prestige Class Reference Guide includes legendary subclasses from all the Epic Legacy books, plus new subclasses to ensure there's at least one for each standard base class, including the Elementalist from the Campaign Codex. 150K gets us Chapter 4 for Epic levels 25 and 26. 175K Chapter 4 for levels 27 and 28. 200K will get the finale of that for levels 29 and 30. We have a little bit here about the team and those involved. You can see the list right here. And that's pretty much it. So we are going to take a look at the Evil Moon in just a sec, but I did want to show you that I do have this Epic Legacy dice bag here. I don't know if this is the exact one that you're going to get, but this thing is nice. I mean, it's got plenty of room for dice in it. It's got a nice drawstring with a metal closure on it. And I also happen to have the Epic Legacy gemstone dice here with me. They are a really, really nice, beautiful blue. You can tell they're gemstone. They just have that different feel. It's a custom, unique font on it. And then if we get to, where's the 20? It has the little Epic Legacy EL on the logo here. So, I mean, I don't want to play around with them too much, but, you know, you can kind of get a good look at. They're very, very pretty. So I'm a fan of those. And once again, for comparison's sake, here's the standard edition of Tome of Titans Volume 1 versus the collectors, which has the foil treatment and things of that nature. All right, so jumping back, let's go ahead and take a look at our Evil Moon creature here. So, Nolthum. And I'm going to kind of try to keep this high level, but as it was mentioned earlier, it's basically an evil dead moon creature. Massive putrid dead flesh the size of a moon. And here's the profile we were talking about, right? Ideals, bonds, flaws, and the legend of this creature. And it talks about how, for most, the legend of Nolthum began when it arrived in orbit of their world, but to those few who have journeyed among the stars, a great truth is revealed. Legends speak of an ancient war between cosmic entities when time, space, and the planes were once all across a cosmic landscape. To even call this conflict a war speaks to only a fraction of its significance. Stars burned to fuel eldritch magics, and unknowable entities died 1,000 deaths. It is not known what side Nolthum fought for, nor whether it won or lost. It is clear, however, that the entity is now a shadow of its former self, a dead relic from an era predating even the gods. The doom from beyond now presents the unrelenting presence of death, always hanging over every moment of the living experience in their small, insignificant lives. So this is the kind of stuff you're going to get. Here's the art. Like I said, this looks like if Majora's Mask was, an M-rated, terrifying horror game. But it's awesome. And I wanted to go down and take a look at this behind the curtain piece, because I really like this little author's note. And it says, Nolthum is an experiment in both its mechanic and narrative design. Its intended role for a campaign is to provide a threat that can be opposed, resisted, and fought, but never defeated. Like death itself, the entity is inevitable. Eventually, it will fully awaken and consume the world. This is a compelling but not unfamiliar story. Many of our world's greatest heroes and tales speak of sacrifice against impossible odds, going out in a blaze of glory that echoes through the ages. Nolthum exists to provide such a moment. While your players may not be used to losing in their heroic story, when done properly, this can be a powerful experience. Failure is a human experience with which we all struggle, one we must appreciate, from which we must learn. Our hope is that when running Nolthum, you and your players can find value in fighting an impossible battle, mirroring the struggles we face every day, but in a fantastical and defiant manner. As the famous starship captain once said, it is possible to commit no mistake and still lose. That is not weakness, that is life. Well said. You're fighting a moon, right? I mean, what are you going to do? So it talks about how, basically it will drift into the orbit of whatever planet you're on, and now all of a sudden you have this thing. Was first thought to be a beautiful stellar body passing by is revealed to be a sickly-looking moon that follows a path, which can only be explained by the presence of intelligence. It soon comes to rest uncomfortably close to the world, again, very Majora's Mask, dominating the sky with its bulk so that all may behold its corpulent, rotting form. And as I mentioned in Tome of Titans, I like it because it does provide different challenges, right? We have exploration challenges, social challenges, and combat challenges. And we can see the different, as it starts to awaken, the different things that happen as far as the levels go. We have exploration encounters. I'm going to look at this one here. Rain of Eyes, because the art is really cool. A particularly foul weather event replaces what would ordinarily be an intense hailstorm. Instead of ice, grotesque eyeballs rain down upon the many distressed people. What is more, these eyeballs appear alive, possessing a hateful glare and capable of rolling about. Curiously, the eyes appear keen to migrate, traveling toward a barren valley that has been devoid of life for centuries. Someone should investigate this grotesque phenomenon, provided they can stomach the swarms of angry eyes watching their every move. You can see, I think it's on the next page. Somewhere around here, here's the eyeballs coming down from the sky, like meteorites. And again, here's some of our social encounters. There's also a new epic language, Star Tongue, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, super old creatures would know this. Here's acts of faith, right? I mean, something like this you could obviously spinning out into a cult, but a formidable cult has arisen in response to the appearance of Nolthum, calling itself the Cult of the Devouring Moon. This cult seeks to hasten Nolthum's awakening by deliberately feeding themselves to the entity. This act of fanaticism has hastened the coming apocalypse as thousands gather on moonlit nights to offer themselves to the moon. If something is not done soon, Nolthum will awaken far sooner than expected, and long before anything can be done to stop it. And then again, we have some combat encounters. And then we have, again, like we talked about, the way he fights on the battlefield. And there's division of tactics for easier and harder play, depending on how you want to go about it. And then we roll into the actual stat block of the creature itself. As such, like I said, there is the standard edition 5e version, which is what you see here, challenge rating 25. And on the next page, we have the mythic version, which has a mythic scale of levels 1 to 5, all defined out in the Epic Legacy campaign codex in the core rulebook. But as such, it will also have mythic actions, which you'll see here that it does not have on the main stat block. So I'm not going to belabor too much here, but I did want to show off a couple of cool things that it has, right? I mean, it's a moon, right? It has a big mouth and a giant tongue, but it has a couple cool abilities to it, like Gaze of Torment. Basically projects a huge red light that racks everybody with pain. And it's just a massive area of this light. When a creature is affected by it, they basically make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. They roll a d8 and subtract it from that. We've seen abilities like this, but this is for a mass scale. And a creature that is immune to psychic damage doesn't get out of it. They just roll a d4 instead. And then it also has this dead light ability, which recharges on a short or long rest. It shines with a deadly light, emitting dim moonlight in a 1 mile radius sphere, which lasts for a minute. And anybody in that area, other than a Thumoid, which is sort of like a servant creature of Nolthum, a creature illuminated by this light cannot sense or perceive any creatures other than the Thumoid. All other creatures are hidden, nor can they affect creatures other than the Thumoid with attack spells or other effects. And then again, if we were to jump to the Mythic Thumoid here. And I should say we're not fighting Nolthum, we're fighting Thumoids, right? Because you can't fight the moon. You're fighting like a big avatar, essentially. And then we can see some of the mythic I want to look at Gnawing Decay, because that sounds awesome. A flesh and blood creature the Thumoid can see within 300 feet must succeed on a DC 25 con save, or be afflicted with a horrifying decay of flesh. A creature immune to diseases has epic advantage on these. A creature so afflicted has an ability score of the Thumoid's choice other than con reduced to 1, down to 1. This effect can be removed by any effect that would cure disease, so long as attempting to remove the disease succeeds on a DC 25 medicine check as part of the attempt, or it fails. So there you go, folks. I'm very excited to go ahead and check this one out as well. Having these, it's a lot of fun to see and kind of plan a campaign around a big epic bad. I mean, a lot of us want to do that, but I feel like myself personally, when I go to plan a campaign, I usually don't plan out like the big bad. I usually come up with specific scenes that I'll run throughout the campaign and kind of string them together, and I sort of fall into the big bad. That's just the way I campaign plan. It's just sort of what makes sense. Maybe the parties gave me an idea and that'll become that. But that's one way that I can definitely use the Tome of Titans is go through, find something specific that I think looks really cool, and then, okay, this is now what I'm going to build my whole campaign around. Again, I can't wait to see the one, what was it called? The Ring of Power, I think it was called. Because that, I'm very curious to see what is listed there versus to see how you could plan out a game, considering we all know how most of that story went. Although I guess there's a new show. We'll find out more about that. But yeah, so there you go, folks. Like I said, the Tome of Titans and all the stuff from 2C Gaming is by folks who very much enjoy Dungeons and Dragons and want to bring it, keep what's here already. There's a lot of really great work was done to develop 5th edition, but just enhance it in areas where it's a little bit lacking. The tactics of the monsters, making monsters more interesting to fight, continuing your campaigns beyond level 20. So 20, if you happen to get there, that doesn't just force the end of your game. You're allowed to keep going because there's fun things that you can do. And then again, using these awesome titans, whether again as allies like the Platinum Dragon King or enemies like Nolthum. a lot to check out, and definitely something that I think you should go over to Kickstarter. And I want to get these stretch goals unlocked because there's a lot of cool stuff to check out there. So only $70, and we unlocked the first one. So thank you all so much for watching. Check those links and stuff in the description, and I will see you all next time.